So some massive fights were announced over the weekend by the UFC, and none bigger than this right here. We have got Dustin Poirier's retirement fight finally being announced. Everyone kind of expected this near the end, if we're being honest. It was heavily rumoured that this was going to be the matchup, and here it is, signed, sealed, delivered. UFC 318 in New Orleans. Dustin Poirier's retirement fight will be against Max Holloway. Now, some people, there's a lot of mixed reviews about this matchup. I actually like it. I actually don't hate it. Obviously, there were other matchups that might have made more sense, like a Gaethje trilogy, because they're one apiece. You've got the Dan Hooker rematch. Maybe you could argue that, because Poirier, at the end of the day, he is 2-0 up on Max Holloway, so there really isn't a need for a trilogy. But it's Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. Just enjoy it. Like, the only complaint I have with this matchup is the BMF belt is on the line. That belt makes no sense. It really doesn't. I mean, the fact that Kamaru Usman beat Masvidal. Masvidal was the BMF champion. Usman beat him. They were both in the same weight class. Usman never became the BMF champion. Max Holloway is the BMF champion. Fights Ilia Topuria. Loses to Ilia Topuria. At the time, they're both in the same weight class. Well, they're now in the same weight class again. He beats Max, who the BMF champ is. Doesn't get the BMF title. The BMF belt doesn't make sense. I really don't understand it. Like, you could have just got rid of the BMF belt after Max lost to Ilia and just had this as the main event of this card and nobody would have complained. Like, my only complaint about this is that the BMF belt is on the line. The title makes no sense whatsoever. But I really like this matchup. I went back and rewatched Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier 2. It is one of the best fights of all time, in my opinion. Go back and rewatch that. That there was an amazing matchup. And now that Max Holloway's like a fully fledged lightweight, for those who remember, when the rematch took place between these two, and Max Holloway was the featherweight champion, Max Holloway, if I remember correctly, took the fight on pretty short notice. So he did. But it was still a great fight nonetheless. Went all 5 rounds. That card in general, because in the co-main event you had Adesanya, Kevin Gastelum. That card there, I can't remember what it was, UFC 200 something, was an absolute banger. But that main event delivered, and I am really looking forward to the trilogy. And it's kind of poetic that Max Holloway is the guy that Dustin Poirier's final fight is going to be against, because Max Holloway's first ever fight in the UFC was against Dustin Poirier, and Dustin Poirier's last fight ever in the UFC is going to be against Max Holloway. It's actually crazy how long Max has been in the UFC for, and that his first ever fight in the promotion was against Dustin Poirier. Now, obviously at the time it was a different Dustin Poirier. Obviously Poirier's done his best career work in the lightweight division, and that fight took place in the featherweight division, but even still, it's just crazy looking back on it. I'm looking forward to this fight. Now, this card, UFC 318, it's going to go one of two ways. Now, again, it's got a great main event, so this main event will carry this card alone, if we're being honest. But the UFC can go one of two ways with this. The one being the way I hope they do it, where they stack this card with like number one contender fights, like a Sean Brady, Shavkat Rakhmonov, some exciting prospects on the card, a lot of ranked fights on this card. But what I think is going to happen is I think this is just going to be very top heavy, as in it's basically this main event and the rest of the card is absolute horseshit. Maybe the co-main event might be good. That is my worry. That's what I think is going to happen with this card right here. I think it's going to be very, very heavily reliant on it's Poirier's retirement fight. It's Poirier, Max Holloway. That is obviously going to be the main selling point, and I think the rest of the card is going to be complete dog shit. I think they should have Shavkat Brady as the co-main event if that fight's not on International Fight Week, which it seems like it's not going to be an International Fight Week, so I think that would be a perfect co-main event to this card right here. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing this matchup. Max Holloway's a proper lightweight now. His last time out in the lightweight division, he put on a clinic against Justin Gaethje, who when Poirier last fought Gaethje, he got head kick KO'd by him. Max Holloway dominated Justin Gaethje at UFC 300 and got the stoppage on him in the last second of the fight. Obviously, since then, he lost to Ilia Topuria. However, that was in the featherweight division. we're all about Max Holloway in the lightweight division. I can't wait for this. I am going to pick Max Holloway to get it done here. I think Max Holloway is going to beat Dustin Poirier this time around, which is sad because you don't want to see Dustin Poirier go out on a loss. But, I mean, we did just see another legend go out in a loss in Anthony Smith. So these things happen. The greats of the sports do go out on a loss. Hopefully he doesn't lose as bad as Anthony Smith done. But I think this is going to be a really fun matchup. I think it's definitely going to deliver. And I think Max beats Poirier by decision. But just quickly, Dustin Poirier did come out and speak about this. So Dustin Poirier says that he wanted his retirement fight to be against Justin Gaethje or Ilia Topuria. The Gaethje one makes sense. They're both 1-1 against each other, so would have made sense for them to have the trilogy. I don't think Gaethje wanted that fight. If you remember, after his matchup against Fiziev, he kind of said, our families don't need to see us do this again. So Gaethje maybe wasn't on board with that matchup, and maybe by the time UFC 318 rolls around, Gaethje wouldn't have been ready for it. The Ilia Topuria one is interesting. Now, I would have liked to have seen this matchup, Ilia versus Dustin Poirier. I think this would have been a really fun one, but Dustin Poirier made it clear that his whole thing was he wanted legends, and right now Ilia Topuria doesn't fit that category. So, but apparently Hunter Campbell really wanted the Max trilogy, and it's happening. We are getting Max Poirier. So my new creative fighter, Max Poirier, is fighting. Let's fucking go. But no, Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier 3. Max beats him by decision. I hope Poirier does his ring walk again like what he done for the Islam Makhachev matchup, because that was just cinema. Moving on to another matchup. We have got Joaquin Buckley versus Kamaru Usman. Cannot wait for this. It's headlining UFC Atlanta. Do we remember when they were trying to say Jilton Almeida versus Volkov was going to headline UFC Atlanta? Didn't make sense. This is the perfect fight to headline this card. Kamaru Usman is back in action versus Joaquin Buckley. I'm really looking forward to this. Everybody kind of knew this fight was going to happen. See, to be fair, at one point though, I thought Kamaru Usman was just going to sit on his Point for Point podcast and just yap for eternity. I actually didn't think he was going to make his return, but he is, and he's taking on the rightful guy in Joaquin Buckley. This is a big coming out party, for Joaquin Buckley. This is his big moment. It's a big moment for both guys, because if Usman loses here, it's career over. Not that losing to Joaquin Buckley's bad, but then you're on a 4-fight losing streak. You're a million miles off the title fight. What are you doing it for at that point? You can make money outside of the cage, so he's not going to continue fighting. But for Joaquin Buckley, if he wins this, then he's one fight off a title fight, in my opinion. I know some people are saying, well, if he beats Usman, he maybe should deserve a title fight. I don't agree to that. I think he needs one more win after that. And whoever wins this will need one more fight, even if it is Kamaru Usman. And the perfect opponent to face is Ian Gary, because Ian Gary is also one win off fighting for the title, and he just beat Carlos Prates. So the winner of this should face Ian Gary, and that can sort out who the next number one guy is in the welterweight division, as Shavkat fights Sean Brady to see who's next to fight for the belt. But yeah, going on this matchup, Joaquin Buckley's gotten the momentum. I know Kamaru Usman's on a 3-fight losing streak, but in his last fight against Khamzat Chimaev, arguably should have been scored a draw, to be honest. He took that fight in short notice, up a weight class, arguably should have been scored a draw. But I think Joaquin Buckley is going to beat Kamaru Usman. Might be a rogue pick here, but I think Joaquin Buckley's going to TKO Kamaru Usman inside 3 rounds. That's what I think is going to happen. Great main event. Some good matchmaking finally from the UFC. But there's always a grey cloud at the end of every rainbow. That's not a saying, but this is it right here. Why is Rose Namajunas in the co-main event? Who cares? Who's asking for a Rose Namajunas fight? Who wants to see this fight? Nobody. Why is it the co-main event? Fucking 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Ass. Dog shit. What else have we got to talk about? Oh yeah. Brr, 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 brr. We've got Rafael Fiziev versus Bahamontes. Cannot wait for this matchup. UFC Baku, which is Azerbaijan, I believe, which is where Rafael Fiziev is from. He's the co-main event to Khalil Roundtree, Jamal Hill. Weird main event to have there, but I'm all for it. Rafael Fiziev needed to be on the card. Why has Bahamontes lost his ranking? I'm only noticing that now. Why has he lost his ranking? Who's ranked above him now in the lightweight division? If it's Grant Dawson, I'm attitude adjusting my setup. Like, I'm picking the table up that everything's on. I'm standing on my bed and I'm fucking AAing it off. Because if Grant Dawson's above this guy, God help us. I like this. Fiziev did talk about moving down to featherweight. Seems like he's not going to do that now. He's getting this big matchup against Bahamontes in his hometown. Unfortunately, though, I think Bahamontes is going to beat him. I think Bahamontes is really, really good. I think he's going to beat Fiziev, unfortunately. And finally, it's fight. I nearly was sick there. It's fight week. Sanhagen, Figgy, I cannot wait. Figgy, 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 can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. I know, I forgot to mention that I can sing. But yeah, Figueiredo, Corey Sanhagen. Early prediction, even though it's happening this weekend, my early prediction as of right now, Figueiredo beats Corey Sanhagen by split decision. That's my prediction. Let me know yours in the comments below. What do you think of these matchups? Is the UFC cooking right now? Thank you all for 900 subscribers. 1k is on the way, which is my goal to hit for the year. Like by Christmas time this year, I want to have hit 1k, and we're really closing in on it. So I just want to say a big thank you for all the support. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you again in the next one. Bye! Fucking hell, I nailed that. I nailed that singing there at the end. Holy shit.